Okay, it's a big exciting day.
Doing some garden beds today.
Raised beds, yay! The transformative step where we can finally do some planting in the beds. So a few things have to happen. Brian's got to find the center point of the dome,
Right.
Because there's a lot of angles.
Right.
The center of the dome was located by dropping a plumb bob from the very top and then putting a pin into the center point in the floor. Now, Brian is running lines to each of the corner areas of the foundation. That's going to help him with the geometry of laying out the garden beds, especially when it comes to putting the inner ring of garden beds in. The inner ring of garden beds will be placed 2 feet away from the outer edge. So it definitely helps visualize and space things appropriately to have these lines in place. So what's first is outer garden bed. So you can see behind us is already a bunch of plants. Right. So it'll be a 2 foot wide garden bed around the whole perimeter.
And next to that, it's about 2 feet away. This will be a 2 foot walkway and then a 4 foot garden bed.
So yeah, bigger bed in the middle. 2x4s and the corrugated steel that we use, just like we did with the siding on the outside. So it's that corrugated steel, pretty easy to work with.
Right. And then just a little bit of cedar. We're gonna clean up the 2x4s and the 4x4s when we do them, so they don't just look like dimensional lumber.
Yeah, it'll have a little edge to it. It'll have a little bit of style. You know, yeah. Brian, nothing's ever plain. So yeah, let's get to it.
All right.
The wall sections are varying length, so it's a little bit of
there's
measuring here.
So there's 2 different lengths.
It keeps you on your toes.
Right, so I've got these set up. So I made a black dot on the string at 2 feet perpendicular this way.
Okay.
And then I set this here, and then I'm going to measure from this edge right there to the next edge over there.
Oh, okay. It's not as straightforward when you're working with a dome, is it?
No. And again, the foundation wasn't perfect, so
okay, all right.
I can't just use measurements from there. And of course, it's a pizza pie, right? So everything tapers in. So 2 feet in is a completely different dimension than up there. So.
Yeah. Now, what Brian's doing here is he's cutting the edges off the 2x4s to give him more of a rough cut look. Originally, he had wanted to order rough cut lumber for these garden beds from the lumber mill, but they were out of dry wood for some reason, and we didn't want to get too delayed with our project. So Brian's taking each 2x4 and cutting off all the face sides so he could have a nice square angle on the corners. So we didn't want it to look like those rounded 2x4s you get from the lumberyard. So anyhow, he's taking a little extra step to kind of spiffy up the look and then assemble them. The other lumber that he purchased for the project are these 4x4 posts. You can see how he cut the 12-degree angles on the backside so that they will work inside the dome. And the last piece of wood that he purchased for this project is cedar plank. This is more for decoration, a little bit of that rustic cut wood, and also it's going to have a little stability because it's going to go on the front side of the garden beds to help hold in the metal. But what he's doing for this process is he's routing out a recess so he can place the cedar plank on the front side of the garden beds. So a little bit of routing and securing with some screws, and then rest of the garden bed assembly. And for the joinery, he's using a pocket joiner, so being able to use the angled screws to attach the different sides, that seems to be the fastest and easiest way to do it. And now let's see what they look like on the inside of the dome. So while we are knee-deep in our very involved custom garden bed inside the greenhouse, full of cuts and measures and more screws than I can count, I realize that not everybody has a Brian to construct such a custom garden bed project. I just wanted to take a moment to show you something refreshingly simple from Gro Rite Garden. So yeah, it's Gro Rite Garden Beds, a raised bed system that you can assemble, no joke, in about 10 minutes with 0 power tools. Let me show you how it works. First of all, I was struck by the packing job. I love how organized everything was. I could see all of the individual parts very easily. And it uses slat connectors instead of screws or nails. They just slide and lock in. No drills, no measuring tape, no headaches, no little pieces to get lost. So honestly, it might be the most peaceful raised bed I've ever done because I've definitely built my own raised beds in the past. And the cool thing is that you can configure these however you like. You could have one long bed, super easy. You can have a couple smaller ones. It's modular, it's flexible, and I tried out a couple of shapes to see what I might like. Now, while it was a little bit of a wrestling match to get the protective coating off, I was relieved to find that each piece was protected from scratches with this clear plastic coating. And I'm not wearing gloves, but I definitely advise wearing gloves when handling the materials because they are sharp on the edges and on the corners. So definitely take that step to stay safe. Another big win on this one is the price. Compared to what we're custom building, this is so budget friendly. So I think you won't have a problem with that. And let's talk about the color. It's sage green, it's subtle, it's calming, and honestly, it's inspired me. I actually love it so much. I'm gonna paint our entire greenhouse corrugated metal the same color. It just feels right and it will match, and it's just gonna bring that calming plant energy up a notch and have it a little bit less industrial looking. So if you're looking for a non-intimidating, very quick, affordable way to get a garden bed set up and running like on the same day without going full carpenter mode, the Gro Rite Garden is a really great option. And I mean like 10 minutes. That's less time than it takes Brian to find his tape measure. So yeah, check it out. I'm going to have a link to their website, Gro Rite Garden. Easy raised beds for real people, not just carpenters. So link in this description if you want to check it out. I think I'm going to end up putting my berry bushes in my Gro Rite garden bed to contain them. And that's the blackberry and the raspberry. And I might even move my service berry from outside into the greenhouse as well. Keep them contained and looking good in that sage green. And the last stack of wood to fit are the 2x6 top sill plate for the beds. So this is something Brian, again, is having to custom cut all of the 12-degree angles at each point in the foundation where the walls join. And it's going to give a nice finished look, as well as the staining, as you can see, has already been happening. So the staining, it's like a sunset sort of color, a little bit more orange, and that's going to look nice against the metal green. But as you can see it getting built out, it is starting to really shape up. Now, you might be wondering about staining inside the greenhouse, and is that creating a lot of fumes? Well, honestly, with all of the fans running and the exhaust running, I almost can't tell that I'm not outside. Unless I'm right up next to the staining, you almost can't even smell any of the fumes. It's getting exhausted pretty quickly. So it's definitely working out really well and going by really fast, because with the heat of the greenhouse and the dryness, it actually is drying almost immediately. So very quick job with the staining. All right, guys, looking good. Got all of the wood part of the raised beds. Now onto the metal.
I got to trim each one lengthwise because we're 2 feet tall and the panels are 25 and a half.
All right, well, a lot of cutting. And then the painting, the priming and the painting after that, so we can match the other garden bed here. I really think that green and the orange is going to be a great combo. Winning combo, I think.
Yeah, it should look really good.
So you're going to use that cutting wheel? You're going to use that grinding wheel to cut all this metal?
Yeah, the big Bauer.
Wow.
That's what I cut all that with. It's not bad. I'm going to stack up a bunch at once.
Oh, okay.
So.
Oh, that's good. I was thinking like 87 different cuts.
No.
Okay.
This is thinner gauge than the exterior siding.
Oh. There you go. That's not really a Vigo spot under there. Hey, look at you in there.
Yeah, so the painting was pretty good. Went pretty straightforward. Just,
Painting the metal, so it was just a matter of priming, 1 coat of primer, and
then 1 coat. Well, I put 2 coats of primer on it, really. I sprayed it just lightly and then put a 2nd coat on. So,
yeah.
But then 1 coat of paint, the color.
Yeah, that's a nice color. Sure is looking good. I like it. Yeah.
So
You're fastening the metal.
I'm just gonna screw them to with these little screws.
Okay. So just straightforward, just drill a hole and
Drill a hole and then screw it in.
And all these metal sheets were custom measured for each
Right,
spot.
for each section, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I see how you sort of cut some 45 so the metal meets up, the 2
Yeah,
panels.
we'll see how. I tried to cut 45s, but it was just eyeballing it. So
Oh, okay.
we'll see how well that actually looks.
Big job done. We used the entire holiday weekend, long weekend for this job. And well, next video, we'll put the dirt in it for you guys. Yeah, it came out really nice. I love the colors. And, you know, again, if you don't have a Brian to do custom raised beds, there's always the Gro Rite Garden option, which I'm definitely a fan of because that only took 10 minutes and was a fraction of the cost. So,
yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, and the modular can definitely move that around. So we'll have a link for you guys with a 5% discount on your purchase if you're interested. We still have 1 more garden bed to go, the one in the middle.
Yeah, it's a 4 foot wide. Pretty much like 8 sections it'll cover, or 6 sections. So.
A little bit more to go, but now you have an idea of what it's going to look like. So definitely, guys, give us a thumbs up on this job. This is Brian. Brian gets the credit for all the mathematics and the cutting and the fastening. So I just picked out the colors, so you know.
Good colors.
Take care. We'll see you next time.